Hello, I'm Victoria Brockley, Employment Partner at Leighton's ETL, and I'm talking today with Neurodiversity Celebration Week in mind. My firm has recently hosted an employment law breakfast seminar in which neurodiversity in the workplace was one of my topics. It's estimated that 15 to 20% of the population is neurodivergent, and that obviously translates to the workplace, so this is an employment law issue. Neurodiversity explains the different ways that people think. It's not a single condition. It can include autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia. Often these conditions can accompany mental health challenges, but they are not the same thing. Employers should be mindful not to consider neurodiversity the same as an employee having mental health issues. Neurodiversity is also not a separate protected characteristic per the Equality Act definition, which can include sex, race, religion, sexual orientation, etc. But rather, because there is a spectrum of neurodivergence, it's important to consider matters on a case-by-case basis. Employers face a number of challenges regarding neurodiversity in the workforce. Particular consideration is required in a number of areas. Firstly, recruitment. Recruitment of neurodivergent employees can present a challenge. Employers should consider the wording of job adverts so as not to dissuade a neurodivergent candidate. For example, are strong communication skills really a requirement for a back office data inputting role? The focus should be on the skills the employee has rather than how they perform in an interview. For example, the candidate may not give eye contact, but nonetheless may have the skills that you're looking for. There are now specialist recruitment companies focusing on helping neurodivergent people because there are skills to harness. For example, those with autism tend to have the ability to concentrate for prolonged periods and possess a strong work ethic. Those with dyslexia can be especially creative. Employers need to consider the skills they can harness. It's about being neurodivergent smart. Employers also face the challenge of meeting individual needs, and this is where it may be helpful to consider neurodiversity in a similar way to how the employer may support a disability in terms of what reasonable adjustments need to be made. It's about a dialogue. Seating arrangements in an office, for example, may require more careful consideration to ensure that the neurodivergent employee is supported. Performance management is a tricky area for an employer, as many neurodivergent people find it hard to take criticism, however constructively it may be given. The advice for further consideration is to make sure the performance management feedback is data-driven. The needs of the business need to be clearly explained, and there should be a trusted management relationship so they can sensitively handle the relationship with the neurodivergent employee. Mentoring is key. Employers can introduce specific neurodiversity mentors or work buddies. Again, it's about building trust. A final employer challenge to highlight today is that the task of the employer has of raising staff and culture awareness. This is just about starting a conversation with staff, putting the topic on the table. A policy may be useful to explain how the employer will provide a framework for support, make adaptations to working flexibly, and adapt performance management procedures. These challenges are all based on the assumption that the employee will divulge the condition at the start of the employment and not suddenly decide to rely on it when challenged about their work. In that circumstance, with the employer on the back foot, careful review of the situation will be required. There's a plethora of case law on the topic of neurodiversity. One which I will raise now is from 2004, the case of Hewitt and Motorola, in which autism was held to be a disability per the Equality Act definition. The definition of disability is someone who has a physical or mental impairment which has a substantial effect on their ability to carry out day-to-day activities which last for 12 months or is likely to last for 12 months. In this case, the employee's autism was held to meet the definition because his condition had a substantial effect on his ability to carry out day-to-day activities. This case related to a dispute about the employee's performance but the Employment Appeals Tribunals made clear that medical evidence is required in such cases to fully understand the employee's condition. There are numerous cases for an employer to consider, but it's clear that in relation to neurodiversity, employers would be well advised to treat their neurodivergent employees in the same way that they would treat any condition which may potentially be considered a disability, even though it's not a separate protected characteristic. There's lots of help available for employers in terms of the National Autistic Society, for example, has a brilliant website. There's also the ADHD Foundation, the British Dyslexia Association, and also very useful guidance from ACAS and CIPD. Statistics say that 45% of autistic people have left their jobs due to autism challenges, and only 16% of autistic adults are in paid employment. The aim is for employers to be neurodiversity smart. This means accepting the neurodifferences, considering the opportunities, and leveraging the neurostrengths. There are certainly challenges for employers in this sphere, but it is important to note that there is support and guidance available for employers to ensure that they can meet those challenges. Thank you very much for your time, and wishing you all a happy Neurodiversity Celebration Week.